So Don, if we look at the quadrant maps of Ken, Wilber, and Aqua models and so forth, much of what you're doing is dealing with the lower quadrants. You're dealing with culture, you're dealing with systems. And you don't deal as much in the individual, it seems to me. But I would love to know your own interior experience of this.
Oh, well,
and how you work your own, the spiral in yourself.
Okay. Well, let me make a comment on that, because it's easy for people to listen to what I'm saying now and say, well, you only deal with lower left, lower right. Now remember, I was schooled with Claire Gray's biopsychosocial systems years before Ken was talking about Aqua.
Okay.
And our projects in South Africa are always what you call all quadrant, even choosing the diet for mine workers based on the kind of work they're doing that day underground. So I've always been biopsychosocial. At the same time, building leadership systems in the mines with illiterate mine workers. That's clearly upper left system. But whenever I came onto the scene, everybody else was talking about interior, and so I was at all of Ken's 10 branch meetings of Integral on Red Hill. I was at all of them, probably one of the few people that day. So I was attempting to be the counter voice and saying, but you got to look at lower left, lower right. You can't just contemplate your navel and go on if you want to have a healthy system and structure. Mm-hmm. So it was easy for me to have been stereotyped as if that's all you do.
Interesting.
Well, that's what I do because that's what needs to be done. I have a whole career around sensitivity training in the 60s and working in group counseling and psychotherapy. I mean, that was really what I was doing. Never talking about culture until events occurred when I got invitation to South Africa. Then I knew I had to deal with everything. So I got forced into it. So while it looks like I'm only concerned about lower left, lower right, that's an anomaly of what I thought was necessary. So I said, well, no one else in Integral is talking about these things, and somebody needs to.
Well, it's interesting to just look at it as the history of the movement.
It is.
Because,
yeah.
You know, Ken came out of more of a spiritual,
yes,
personal history.
Yeah.
And in this part of the world, Boulder, Denver, there's a lot of people who are really working in those dimensions. And to have you, you know, all of us really come together and work on all four and understand all four is a good thing.
I think that's what Integral means.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
I do too.
See, Ken even resisted a lot of upper right things. I'd bring him books on genetics and testosterone levels, and because he was focused on spirit, non-dual outside things, and the chemistry and architecture and mechanics of the neurological system was not his unit of study. So I kept trying to educate him in that. Now he speaks much more about that. So yeah, I try to fill in blanks because I come from a different tradition and understand those things pretty well, and decided in my career after I left teaching to really focus the rest of my life on that, because I saw that to be a weak spot.
Right. Now, you said something over the weekend that caught my ear, and that is that you don't believe meditation is a big factor in development, at life conditions far more so. And so tell me a little bit about that.
That I don't believe that meditation is the cause of change. I didn't say it's not a factor.
Okay.
It's an elaborative factor. But where I work, if I said that you need to stop and meditate, they'd kick me out of the country. Right. The Graves technology doesn't look at meditation. It looks at problems of existence, and he's very exacting in the conditions for change that he spells out in his research for years. And certainly meditation is a horizontal development and may play some kind of role around insight, but for a whole culture, because that was my unit of study. How do I help South Africa change? Well, you see, that hit me early in 1981.
You have them sit down cross-legged.
Yeah, for sure.
Say Om.
and chant in Zulu or something. That'd be interesting. Butalese says,
Yeah.
sit down, Chief Minister, and start. And he wouldn't have catered to that. Yeah, because I have to deal with the whole culture, with all aspects of it. And even then, what echoes in my ear, what my friend Graves would say, Don, you can't change people. All you can do is relate what you're doing to their natural motivational flow. Over time, certain things happen that indeed will change. But if you think that you're in charge at that point, you're really pretty naive. It's simply too complex. So
But isn't that an inspiring idea?
Oh, I just love the idea.
I mean,
yeah.
it feels like we can relax a little bit.
We can.
Yeah.
We can do what we can, and then go fishing or whatever, and not feel guilty, and not have the urge, I gotta change people.
Right.
It doesn't mean people don't change. There's a tremendous capacity to change. But the idea that I can through any mechanism, of course the behaviorists with their carrot and sticks are quite convinced they can do that. But
Well, and meditators are too, and having been a long-term meditator, here's where I think it plays. I think that when you develop a witness perspective where you can actually see your body sensations, watch your thoughts arise, and so all of that becomes a little less gripping, just because you're witnessing it in this sort of calisthenic way. And that just brings a little more flexibility to the mind that may facilitate a natural erotic or urge to continue to get more spacious in one's upper left, in one's being.
Yeah.
But there's no question in the world, and this is where I think Graves hits the nail on the head, is that there are some people who are there anyway.
Yeah.
And they've never meditated a day in their life.
A single day.
And so meditation helps, I think, but
Yes.
it's not required.
For sure.
It's an elective.
It is. Yeah, it's a spiritual practice for sure.
Yeah.
And I spoke recently to a group in San Diego, and my friends told me that you were really on a roll. I said, yeah, I was a witness. I saw myself outside of myself as I was responding to this group, and probably one of the most powerful presentations that I've ever made. But it wasn't because of meditation. It was because of the perfect storm of dynamics and being home 3 months, where I wasn't under pressure and having good support, that it just made it happen. And there are times in my life, when that occurs, because I've studied sports motivation a lot. Flow. What is it that puts a high performance team into a flow state? That's always interested me, because there you see high performance far beyond what that team could have done ordinarily. And what I found is there's a long preparation for the team to get it into that, where the competition, like in the first half of a game, will trigger flow in the second half. So I've always looked at that phenomena. So I'm quite respectful of it.
Right.
And for many, they experience that in a deep meditative experience.
Yes. Yeah. But how fascinating to see it, particularly arise in a team.
Yes.
A team in flow. That's a pretty special thing, isn't it?
It is. It is. And the coach can't cause it to happen.
No.
He can sit and marvel at as the motivation shifts during and how to respond to an event in football, an interception or turnover or something. And when I was working with the South African rugby team, then in the World Cup competition, I did a number of things with them. Now these are rugby players, and they don't eat quiche, if you know what I mean.
I do.
Then I'd have the backs swing the ball, while playing harp music, and then I have the pack, the forwards, scrums of steel to visualize all those kinds of things. So a lot can be done with the power of the mind that too often is compromised by goal, team, win, Vince Lombardi type. But I don't know any coach today who does that, because even the famous pregame and halftime speeches, the win one for the Gipper and all that. The coaches don't do it anymore because as soon as they're out in the field and get hit the first time, all that vanishes anyway. So you really have to have the team's total brain syndicate calibrated to handle bad things and to mobilize from good things. And you build that in training camp early, and you build the kind of leadership disseminated in the team, not just in the coach or position coaches or even official team leaders. That's what characterizes a high-performance team.
That many leaders, or the leadership aspects of everybody is acknowledged.
That's right.
So then if they're not doing pep talks at halftime, what are they doing?
Preparation. I mean, Tom Landry, I used to work with Landry and the Cowboys, would say, Don, there are motivational speakers for sure, but he says, I've learned if I have my team thoroughly prepared, then the confidence that comes from that, you can never get that in a motivational speech. But if that confidence is there, that assurance, you just can't beat that. So he was motivating the team, but in different ways than the typical pep talk.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because a typical pep talk would, from an integral perspective, we would say that that's a state change. State change.
Oh, yeah.
So you get lit up, but states are very temporary and very fragile.
Well, even my friend Hayden Fry, who coached Iowa Hawkeyes for years, when I used to work with him, I talked about how law enforcement often paints a room pink to put a criminal in it, and then strips them naked, and and that kind of subdues them.
Right.
So we painted the visitors' dressing room in Kinetic Stadium in Iowa City pink, and had a lot of fun with it. But rather than pregame have the team rush out and jump like Mexican jumping beans on top of each other, his team just kind of walks out calmly.
Prepared. Confident that they're prepared.
If they are not jumping beans,
right,
he says they're really not prepared.
Right.
Because those hype sort of things, number one, burn energy that you really don't want to do, and get a team too high, and so you slowly build it. Yeah, so some of the most successful coaches have learned how to do that.
It would be actually kind of unnerving to see a team just walk out calmly, wouldn't it?
It does unnerve the other team. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.